Well, in the last video, the sketching video, I forgot to give her some clothes. So I'm going to start this video with that, and then we'll get to the watercoloring part. I'm going to give her sort of a flowery dress. So what I'm going to do is start a line from her shoulder all the way across, kind of curve it a little bit so it's just not a straight line. Then I'm going to put some little flowers on there, and I will zoom in for that. Okay, so I'll start about right here. I'm going to make a little circle and a little petal, another petal, and another petal. And I'm just going to go across both sides and do this. And I'm not pushing too hard. I don't want to make them too dark and see the lines. So I'll just keep going. And if you see where they're overlapping here, I just lift my pencil where it's coming around and then put it back down where you see it. Okay, so I've got that done. I'm going to erase some of these little lines with my little eraser just to get those out of there. And I'm not going to worry too much about it. Just the ones in the center of the petals. It probably won't really show up. I'm going to be making sort of dark flowers. Okay, so zoom back out. I am going to start with her face. Let's see, the first color I'm going to use, I think, is Burnt Umber. I'm going to mark this so I know later to put on the list of supplies. Oh, I need a different brush. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with, oh, this is a kind of a bigger face, so I'm going to start with a number 6 round brush. And I'm going to get it wet. I mean, it's wet. It's not dripping, but it's wet. And I'm going to start coloring with the Burnt Umber. I'm going to pick some up off my palette here. And I have these all squirted in here. Just going to touch it to it. And probably you should have a separate piece of paper you can test to see how dark it's going to be. And then I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to start on the hairline. You can add more water and drag it out. I'm just adding some water. Okay, I'm going to grab a little bit more of the Burnt Umber, and I'm going to come around to the side of her nose here, give her some shadow. And a little under her eye. You should also have a paper towel handy to blot out your brush if you need to. This paper is pretty forgiving, and these watercolors are really nice. These are the Winsor Newton. And in a later video I'm going to show you how to do this with cheap watercolors. Okay. So you can go back over if you need to, and I'm not pushing hard, but add a little more color to your brush and go back over spots. Add some to her shadow under her nose. Getting a little more color. And I grab the water out with my hand and wipe it on my pants, or you could wipe it on a towel. Jeans are for, you know, sopping things up. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep adding the burnt umber and water. You can see that it blends out really nice. Come up to about where I want the shadow on her nose. I'll blend that up into there. I'm going to come around her hairline over here. Go around. I'm going to take some water. I've cleaned out my brush and added some water. And I'm just going to come back around and feather it out. And I keep my brush down. I don't keep the tip, because when you do that, then you color with the tip and leave lines. But if you have your brush down, it feathers the color out. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more brown to my brush and go under the eye. You can see I started with a line and I pushed my brush down and it spreads down and feathers it out. I guess that's the best way I can think of to describe it. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit more under her nose. And clean out my brush, and I can spread it out. Oh, there's a fly in here. Okay, I'll pull some right here. I'll make it darker on this side. I've never taught watercolor before, other than in rubber stamping, and I don't know all the technical terms. This is just what I've, you know, figured out on my own. A little bit in there. And go around. Okay, let's see. I think I'll go around the eyes a little bit. I'm going to turn her upside down, and I've got a little bit on the tip of my brush. I'm going to go around her eye. I'm going to grab a little bit more. Oh, I think I have too much water. Okay, so go around. Okay, I gotta turn it around and see what I'm doing. Yeah, that looks alright. Okay, I might spread some of that out a little bit more. Again, with just a wet brush. And this is fairly forgiving. Just if you don't like a spot, you can wet it and then daub it up with your paper towel. I think I'll do a little video for you guys on just playing with it and seeing what you can do before you start this. Let's see. So we'll do the other eye, and I'm going to turn it back around. Grab a little bit of burnt umber, and we'll work on this one. And I think this side I'm giving more shade. So the light would be coming from this side, and you'd have your shade on this side. Okay, I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to put a little bit on the bottom. I'm going to come around the side, and I'm leaving lighter spaces where the light would hit, like on the cheek. The nose is totally white at the moment. I'm going to take my wet brush. It doesn't have any color in it. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the color here just to give it a little highlight in there, and then grab my paper towels. I'm just going to dab it up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the neck, still with the burnt umber, and I'm going to start on the side here and come down and around. And I'm not too worried about the flowers if I get paint in there, so I'm going to paint over them with fairly dark color. Come around here. Now if your face is still wet down here, this will bleed up into it, so just make sure when you go on to the next space or the next color that the previous paint is dry. Okay. I'm going to spread that out. My brush is pretty wet. Kind of go around the flowers a little bit. Adding water, adding more water. This will make it easier for the color to spread down in there. Got a little thing there. Okay. Just gonna go around the leaves a little bit, or the petals. Okay, just gonna get this all wet. Okay, and then I'm gonna take a little bit of the burnt umber again. I'm gonna come around under her chin, into her neck, down. And this side's going to be shaded more, so I'll work on that. But I do want to get color in here. Okay, so we'll bring it around, get a little more color. Oh, didn't get it. Pulling some of the color down and around. Okay, so I'm going to add a little more darker color on this side since there's more shading on this side. Okay, I'll let that part dry. So that's just with one color. All the different shading kind of, you know, you could just do one color and it would look just fine, look good. I don't like to do just one color because I just have to use lots of colors. Let's see. Oh, and be careful not to touch your wet stuff. I'm gonna darken some of the shading. And this, I'm still using the same color. And I rinsed out my brush. I'm gonna pick some of the color back up. And I rinsed it again. Turn it on this side. Okay. Alright, so I think I'll take a little tiny bit and add it to the corners of her eyes. No, I didn't get any on my brush. There we go. Sure. Just add a little bit in there and in the corner there. Pick it back up. Okay, and then we'll do the other side. Again, just touching it to the tip of my brush. You can't even see it on here, but there's just a tiny bit on there. And coloring in the things, the corners. Okay. Maybe I'll make it a little bit darker. Okay. Alright, so next. What's next? I think I'll work on the eyeballs while the rest of it's drying. I think I will do decisions. I think I'll do the olive green. Better mark that for you guys. A little bit of olive green. And I'm just gonna fill it in. Fill that one in. Add a little more color. Okay, so while these are still wet, I'm going to take a little bit of, I think I'll use a color you guys are going to use later. I'll use the indigo blue. I'm just going to take a little bit on my brush, and my brush is a little bit wet, and I'm just going to touch right here. Let's see if you can see that. So I've taken the indigo blue on a fairly wet brush and just touching the wet paint with it, and it will spread into the eye. And we'll wait for that to dry, and we can add pupils and things later. I'm going to add a little bit darker there. Okay. And then if you wanted your green to be a little darker, you could go back on this side, maybe add some more green. A little darker. Or you could leave it as it was. So next I think I'm going to work on the lips, and the color I'm going to use is alizarin crimson. Hopefully I said that right. I don't know what the names are really. Let's see. So let me test this. Okay. I'm going to start with a light wash of it. And I am using the number 4 right now. My camera turned off a few minutes ago, so there's a little break in the video. Okay, so I'm adding a little bit more. And your top lip is, at least in drawing, is generally, or painting, is generally darker than the bottom lip. So I'm going to add a little bit, little light color in there. And I'm going to make the top a little darker. It's better to start out with light, you know, layers than to start out really dark. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit more to the bottom of the lip. I'm going to clean out my brush and just kind of go through it. Kind of brings it up. Okay, now dry my brush up a little bit, pick some of this up. Okay, that's probably good for now. If I want to add more, I will. I think my cheeks are fairly dry, feels like it. I'm going to take my size 6 round brush. I'm going to add a little bit of the alizarin crimson to my brush. Not super thick. I'm going to start at the edge of her cheek and push my brush down and sort of just spread it around. I'm going to pick up a little more color, add it to the edge, and it will kind of float in. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it around and do the other side. And I've loaded my brush with water, just grabbing a little bit. And I'm going to start about, well, I'll start all the way back, just so there's no line. Adding more water to my brush, filling in. It's hard to see what I'm doing upside down. Okay. So I've got it quite wet in there. I'm going to add a little bit more color. And I'm not pushing hard. I'm just trying to bring it in. And if you're not sure before you start, just test it on a separate piece of paper and see how it's working for you, and then do it on your piece. Okay, so while this side's drying, I'm going to take my washed out brush and I'm going to pick up the color a little bit so I don't have such a line there, and just kind of, and again I pull the water out of the brush, and I'm not pushing hard, I'm just kind of trying to lift the line a little bit. And when that dries, I'll do the same on that side. You can make your cheeks darker if you want, but I think these will be okay at this color. So we'll wait for that to dry. I think I'll start adding some color to, extra color to the face. I usually add more colors into the shading. I'm going to stick with this limited color palette so you guys don't have to go out and buy a bunch of different colors. This is kind of dry there, so I'm going to pick up this and smooth it out a little bit. Again, I have my washed out brush. I'm taking most of the water out with my hand, or you could use a paper towel, and I'm just trying to get the line washed out. Okay, and if I need to later, I can go back and do it again. So let's see, usually I use teal color, some sort of blue color, to add color to the face. Also, I'll use a yellow, but to keep the color palette simpler, or you know, so you don't have to buy a bunch. I'm gonna use the indigo, which I used in the eyes, and the olive green. So I'm gonna take the indigo. I'm gonna wet my brush, and I'm just gonna lightly pick up a little bit of color. And again, you can test it to see. So anyway, where I was at was using indigo. This is my color chart. This is the color we'll be using for the blue. And I'm going to wet my brush. I'm going to add a tiny bit of the indigo color. A tiny bit of the indigo color, and I'm going to just brush it along the edge here and add some different color for highlights. It brings the color in that's in the surroundings. We will be using the indigo in the background color, so that'll bring it all together. And let's see, I'll add a little bit to the side here, and it's not overpowering, it's just, you know, adding some, I guess, depth to it. Okay, and I'm going to add a little bit to the side here, and I'm going to turn it. I'm going to add a little bit to the side of the nose. Grab a little more color, come around, add it there. I'm going to bring a little bit down into the nose and around here, a little under her lip. Maybe I'll add a little more. Let's see, we'll add some to the neck. Oh, I don't think I got much on my brush. Okay, try it again. Maybe the color's just dark there. Okay, I'm coming around. And we'll, oh, you can't see that. Okay. Okay, we'll add some here, come up, and I'll add a little bit over here. And I think I'm going to come down where the neck comes down. Add some there, and I'm going to brush it out a little bit. Okay, I think I will add some around the eyes. Do a little bit underneath here, a little bit underneath here, and I'll pull some out of my brush and flatten it a little bit. Okay, I'm going to add some above the eye, and what I'm going to do is add it above the lid. I'm going to turn this. Okay. Sorry, I keep flipping it on you, but it's important to turn your paper and have your point against the edges of things. Wherever you're going to add the darkest color should be at the point of your tip of your brush. Okay, so I'm going to add some to this one. Turn that. Okay, whoop. Okay. All right. Oh, add some to the side of the face here. Turn it back around. I think I'm going to add more under the chin. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see it. Okay. Okay, that's probably pretty good. If you want it to be a little warmer, zoom it in a little bit. If you want it to be a little warmer, you could add some of the olive green. I would normally use yellow, but like I said, I don't want to make it impossible for you to do this because you can't afford to get all the colors, or, you know, it's ridiculous to have to buy a lot of supplies. You can add a little bit of, you know, the green. See, it just kind of warms it up just that little bit. You could pull it in here. Add a little here. And just tiny bits just really adds a lot to your watercolor, or any painting really. I like to add color on all of them. Extra color. Okay. A little there. A little on there. And I'll put a little bit on her neck. Okay, that's probably good. Alright, so next I think we'll do the background. I don't want to do the hair yet until I've done the background. I'm going to do black hair on this one, and it's easier to have the background coming in her hair a little bit, then I can just go over it. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, I think I'm going to get a bigger brush. Oh, I have one in here. I don't think I have one in between the 6 and this one. This is a 10, maybe an 8 would be good, but I'm going to go ahead and use this. So it's a 10, it's a round brush. I'm going to get my brush pretty wet, and I'm going to use the indigo blue, and I'm going to go around the wings. I'm going to start, can you see that? Yeah. I'm going to start right around the wings here. And it doesn't matter if you get it in the wings. I'm going to be gessoing those anyway. Okay, so I've cleaned my brush out a little bit, added some water, just going around the hair. You just want to be careful not to get the face or the skin. You can clean it up, but it's easier to not have to do that. Okay, so while it's wet, I'm going to take my brush. It's going to be fairly full. It's not dripping, but it's fairly full. And I'm just going to touch the watercolor. Let me see. I'll zoom in so you can see that. Just going to touch it. Touch it. Now you could do this with salt also while it's wet, but this is easy. I'm just touching the watercolor. Just barely touching it, just to where the water hits it. If you put too much, it's all just going to blend together. Okay, so zoom back out. See how that looks? That was so easy. Okay, so we'll go to the other side, being careful not to touch this side while it's drying, and do the same thing. I have a pretty wet brush. It's not dripping off, but it's as wet as it can be without dripping. Oops, got some on there. Oh, it came off. That's good. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my indigo blue, and I'm gonna start around the. Ooh, that's really thick. Okay, I'm gonna start around the outside of the wing. So this side will be quite a bit darker. And I could lift some of it, but I'm not too worried about it. Okay. Going around the wing. And around her neck. And you want to make sure this is all dry before you do this. You don't want it bleeding into your face. That would not be fun. Okay, so we're going to go around the hair. And you don't want to take too long. You need to have your paint still wet. See, it's already drying on the edges here. Okay, and then I'm going to take my brush, not so wet that it's dripping, but pretty wet, and just touch it with the water, or the end of your tip of your brush, and then the water just spreads through the wet paint. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And then I'm going to finish the top, taking my really wet brush with my indigo blue. I'm going to go around the wing. I'm going to wet my brush so that it blends into this. And it will have the drips, so it'll help sort of camouflage where the line is, but go ahead and do this side. Make sure it's all still wet. I'm going to clean my brush out a little bit and clean that up a little bit. Okay. Make sure that's all wet still. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and add my drips. Or my, touch it with the water. Okay. Make sure I'm not blocking the screen. Yeah. So that's pretty fun. I like doing that. And again, you could use salt, would do kind of the same thing. I'm gonna let this dry, and then we'll do the hair. Oh, and then we need to finish the details of the face. And let's see, for the dress, I think I will leave her dress white. Decisions, oh boy. Or maybe we'll do a light wash of the blue. That would probably work. So I think I'll do a light wash of the indigo blue. And again, using my number 10, I'm going to just grab a little bit of the indigo blue, and I'm going to start putting it in there. And it doesn't really matter if you get it on the flowers. I'm going to be doing those. Oh, and a similar color, I'm going to be adding indigo to them also. Okay. I've got a lot of water on my brush. And it doesn't matter if you go over the side, because your wings are going to come all the way down. Maybe I'll take my paper towel and soak some of that up. So that looks kind of cool. Okay, we're gonna let that dry, and then I will be back to show you how to do the hair and the flowers.